welcome you to the Hong, and I'll be your host for today. Okay, so happens that our Singapore pioneer poets blazed trails and persisted through poetry is recognized as a vital part of Singapore's history and culture. It's all thanks to them, okay? We are very, very, very privileged to have with us distinguished pioneer poets, okay, to read their poems or have the poems read on their behalf, okay? And you know why, okay? Now, so happens that they are all seated here, okay, so that they can get to the podium more easily, okay? That's actually the only reason, okay? Now, this year, we are actually paying homage to Dr. Oliver, okay, Sik Beng Hian, a pioneer poet in his own right. We would like to thank his estate for their generous contribution to Poetry Festival Singapore 2024 and for enabling us to celebrate poetry with you in honor of his legacy. Okay? Now, Professor Oliver Sid was actually my colleague in NIE. Okay, he's actually very sadly missed. And right now in NIE corridor, we actually have his poems, okay, being framed up. Okay? So, and then we also, I was also privileged to have taught his granddaughter and maybe his grandson as well, okay, to become teachers. So, it's like, for me, he's a very important person to our educational landscape. Okay, now what happens is that initially I'm supposed to, Professor Edwin Tambu is here. Okay, can we give him a warm round of applause? Okay, yeah. Okay, now, what happens that, can we firstly invite, now you actually heard Mr. Muhammad Iqbal, okay, just now in his opening ceremony. Okay, and then just now he just shared with me that he shared a namesake with a very famous Pakistani poet, also Iqbal. Okay, okay. Now, but the thing is that as a Singaporean, okay, what happens is that he's actually a very prolific Singapore Tamil poet and writer. He has published 17 collections of poems and written many literary articles, essays, radio plays, poems, and short stories for Tamil Marasu newspaper, magazines, and radio programs over the decades. He wrote over 200 children's songs, okay, for the Singapore radio program Let Us Sing in the 1970s and 1980s. English translations of his poems by R. Balachandran can be found in the Evening Number and other poems. He was an associate editor of the anthologies Rhythms and 50 on 50. For his efforts, he has received numerous awards, okay, including the NUS Centre for the Arts Mont Blanc Literary Award, the Tamil Zava Literary Award from the Association of Singapore Tamil Writers, the Southeast Asia Right Award, and the Cultural Medallion Award, Literary Arts. Today, he will be reading for us his poem, Water, which was selected by the National Arts Council for display on MRT trains and for exhibition at the expo in 2000 in Hanover, Germany. Okay, can we invite Mr. Iqbal, please? You can see he's as prolific as the Pakistani poet. Yeah.
என்னம்மா தண்ணீர் கவிதை வாசிக்க போகிறேன். பேசலாமா? எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். தண்ணீர் என்ற தலைப்பில் எழுதிய கவிதையை இப்போது வாசிக்கப் போகிறேன். வெயிலின் வாய் உன்னை விழுங்கி விட்டதாக நினைத்து கொண்டிருந்தேன். தண்ணீர், வெயிலின் வாய் உன்னை விழுங்கி விட்டதாக நினைத்து கொண்டிருந்தேன். மழையாக நீ மண்ணுக்கு திரும்பி வரும் வரை. சூரியன் முழுங்கிடுச்சுன்னு நினைச்சேன், பிற்பாடு நீ மழையாக. கடலுக்குள் ஆராய் கலந்து நீ கலங்கப்பட்டு விட்டதாக கவலைப்பட்டு கொண்டிருந்தேன். தண்ணீர் ஆறு. கடலுக்குள் ஆராய் கலந்து நீ கலங்கப்பட்டு விட்டதாக கவலைப்பட்டு கொண்டிருந்தேன். ஓரக்கரையில் நீ ஊற்றாகச் சுரக்கும் வரை. இறங்கி வர மட்டுமே உனக்கு தெரியும் என்று எண்ணிக்கொண்டிருந்தேன். தண்ணீர் இறங்கி வர மட்டுமே உனக்கு தெரியும் என்று எண்ணிக்கொண்டிருந்தேன். ஆவியாக நீ ஆகாயத்தில் ஏறும் வரை. இறங்கி வர மட்டுமில்லை, உயிர்களை உண்டாக்கும் உன்னத பொருளாகவே உன்னை பாடிக்கொண்டிருந்தேன். தண்ணீர உயிர்களை உண்டாக்கும் உன்னத பொருளாகவே உன்னை பாடிக்கொண்டிருந்தேன். மூழ்கி செத்தவர்களை நீ முதுகில் சுமந்து காட்டும் வரை. தண்ணீரில் எத்தனை பேர் மூழ்கிறாங்க? உயிரை தர்றது மட்டுமில்லை. தண்ணீரோட பேசுகிறேன். புற அழுக்கை மட்டுமே உன்னால் போக்க முடியும் என்று நினைத்து கொண்டிருந்தேன். புற அழுக்கை மட்டுமே உன்னால் போக்க முடியும் என்று நினைத்து கொண்டிருந்தேன். என்னுடைய சோக அழுக்கை நீ கண்ணீராக வந்து சுத்தம் செய்யும் வரை. நன்றி.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. You have actually created a very important poem on a very important element of water. Okay, you know that we cannot exist without water. Okay, so you can see it also signifies that poetry is our sustenance. Okay, it's a source of our sustenance as well. Okay, now can I now have the privilege of inviting Associate Professor Li Ziping and who retired as Associate Professor English Literature from the National University of Singapore, where she taught for 32 years. By the way, I think she was there teaching when I was in NUS doing my literature major. Okay, but she was never my teacher. Okay, so happens that, but then we had what I call whispers of awe in saying that, oh, she's a poet. Even then in 1980s, we all undergraduates were also looking at you as a poet. Okay, I never met you, but I know you because of my friends' awe and taking inspiration from you. Okay, so it happens that she has a collection titled Soul's Festival, collected poems 1980 to 1997, a compilation from her first 4 collections. She is the author of 8 collections of poetry, which have won her numerous awards, including the Singapore National Book Development Council Award for Poetry 3 times. Wow, okay. The Singapore Cultural Medallion for Literature, the C. Wright Award, and the Montblanc CFA Literary Award. She was the only Singaporean to be awarded the Gabriela Mistral Award from the Republic of Chile, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Chilean poet Gabriela Mistral's winning of the Nobel Prize for Literature. Professor Lee's poetry is known internationally and studied in university literature courses in Australia, Canada, and the USA. And her work has been read over the BBC. Several of her poems have been set to music for choral performances by Singapore composer Professor Bernard Tan. One of the country's most accessible poets for her clarity and understated humor, she has given numerous poetry readings in public and is known for her mentorship on young writers and promotion of creative writing among the young. She was on the inaugural list of 108 women inducted in the Singapore Women's Hall of Fame. Her interests include music, faith, and painting. Now, she'll be reading 2 poems titled Pause and Play. Okay, that's quite meaningful. Okay, so can we now sort of like invite Professor Lee to lead us to pause and play?
Good evening, everyone. I'm very honored and privileged to be here, to be invited to do this reading tonight. I will be doing 2 poems. They arose out of our experience of the pandemic of the last 3 to 4 years. And I think many of us were affected by the lockdowns, the restrictions, and life seemed to become quite different for us, many of us. So I've done these 2 complementary poems, written about 9 months into the circuit breaker that we had in Singapore. I've called the poems Pause and Play, referring to, like a gadget, a CD player where you can pause the music, pause what you hear or what you see on a video player for the time that is necessary. And then play is when you pick up again when you want to resume your watching, your hearing of the music. Pause. 9 months and more of compulsory confinement begin to feel like gestation without fruition. Time moves and changes, yet the clocks seem to have stopped, their hands hiding their faces in an embarrassment of delay. What can they tell us of this great pause in our life? In a moment, this bloated world imploded and shut down, its plans deflated. Cities, streets are emptied. All have gone in hiding. Our living kept out of sight by decree, our agonies, our confidence devolving, and by necessity undeclared. Everyone's suffering owned, hardly to be shared. Hearts are halting abnormally, spirits flickering, even as we imagine, without voice or body to grieve, the dead queuing in numbers faster than the earth has space to house them. Love's last words, hastily folded in prayers cast upon the wind from distances. Does anyone here do the dead? It is hardly bearable that in a few hundred days, thousands of souls, blessed in life and love, struggle to unmute the clogging air, gasping in unwilling disbelief, snuffed out by despair. Too many born dishonored to the grave. Love is locked out, locked down, refused entry to places of caring designed to heal and save. Earth, our home, was never more strange, and our world inhospitable. for many, pandemic transits to pandemonium, tortured behind closed doors. Now we must stop to think, force ourselves to sink into our deep unknowing, holding our breath like the dying. But we are the living, for whom everyone is untouchable, from whom everyone stays out of reach, unnaturally alone. What are we waiting for? A death or an awakening? Each at our own reckoning, restoring life or abandoning. 2, play. Now we can see ourselves, magnifying that pinpoint in the dark. Look, now the skies are blue and clear, reflecting on the ocean's upturned face. Stark truths from the deep are coming up for air. Breathe, listen. Now we can hear the birds. Their waking songs return that we were deaf to. Smog's chokehold released, fluorescences revive. Jasmine, tambusu, lily, gardenia unclog our senses for life-giving air. Within the bad dream that became reality, such constellations thrive. Earth is looking up after being beaten down, abused a million ways. She still tolerates replenishing our days. Now we can see ourselves, the ungrateful, ignorant, indifferent, wasteful tribe, preferring darkness to growing in the light. We worshipped gods we made and let them rule. The breath that made Adam stand up and walk and talk and name his world is a forgotten memory. Those of us who still have breath cannot give respiration nor reparation for what the enemy has stolen. There remains one source, and we wrestle with how to draw on it to summon mercy and generosity for an unbelieving people. Our heads wrapped in protection, useless, as are all the paraphernalia, semblances of shrouds and winding sheets that speak prophetically of the end to come. Every tube and gadget replacing the body's thoroughfare, living by machinery, is mockery. One hope remains, that those drowning and those whose mission is to defy death are the closest they will ever be. Hands and feet, eyes, voices forced together, recognize no distinction, return images of a life that came once from the same source, without division or strife. In those phantasmagoric scenes, hope with healing comes, if at all, with our reclaiming how to see, to hear and believe beyond unimaginable reality, human spirits uniting to survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Lee. Now, she talks about the COVID period, and it reminded me of a very surreal experience. Okay, what happened was that on Sunday, Orchard Road is always very vibrant. And then for the first time, I could actually take a photo without any human beings. Okay, so I still have that photo to tell myself. And it's actually very scary because it reminded me of the end of the world. Okay, so I'm glad I'm old enough to experience all that, but I'm sorry I'm not poet. I didn't capture that in poetic whatever. I only capture in pictures. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing with us. Okay, moments from our history. Okay, because we all actually do experience history in the making, and that's where we create our poems. Okay, now I'm going to invite Associate Professor Robert Yeo next. Okay, and let me just read out his biodata. Okay, Associate Professor Yeo was educated in the University of in Singapore and the Institute of Education, University of London. Over the past decades, his artistic practice has charted the post-65 story through diverse genres such as poetry, fiction, plays, essays, opera, and autobiography, as well as editorial works of titles published for schools and the general public. Prof. Yeo has published 6 plays, the best known of which is the Singapore Trilogy, a novel entitled The Adventures of Holden Hing and Liberato for Carnegie, The Jewel Anklet, and Fences in collaboration with composer John Shapley. He has written 5 poetry collections and Roots, a Singapore memoir, 1940 to 75, which records the first 35 years of his life. Its sequel, Roots 2, a Singapore memoir, 1976 to 2000, was published only last year, 2023. Further contributions to English literature in Singapore include extensive writing on Singapore language theatre, previous posts as chairman of the Drama Advisory Committee and Drama Review Committee, and advisory positions on committees for the Arts Fund and the National Arts Council. In 1991, he was awarded the Public Service Medal for the promotion of drama. He was Associate Professor at the National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. He is currently an adjunct faculty at the Singapore Management University. Professor Yeo will be reading poems from The Best of Robert Yeo. Coming Home, Baby. Associate Professor, please. Yeo, please.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I'm going to read from a longish poem, somewhat autobiographical, which I wrote back in 1968. And it seems to me to be prophetic because back in the late 69, I was already confident that Singapore was going to be a successful nation. So you can see that my works have got a special relationship with independent Singapore because I felt privileged as someone born in 1940 to see a new nation being born before his eyes. And of course, it's associated with great men, in particular, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who was reported to have said that island nations are political jokes. You know that famous quotation? Of course, he was then forced to create a nation out of an island. So here goes the poem. It's the first 2 excerpts are sort of light about someone like myself coming home to Singapore after 1965 and observing changes. And the last poem I'm going to read is called 1969. And I think 1969, it seems to me to be an important year because it celebrated modern Singapore's 150 years. It also celebrated 10 years of the People's Action Party. And so I wrote a poem called 1969. Let me start now. I have come back. I have not returned. MacArthur returns. The prodigal son returns. Devonaya returned. But being just me, well, I only come back. Only the first son of a middle-class insurance clerk who depended on his salary, his only source of income. In any case, I had to come back, bonded to the government, what? Also, I want to come back, London, 2-year scholarship, the only way I could go. English? No, not this time, not this government. Education. Not exactly blue collar, but more practical, don't you think? Winter, cold. But there are ways of keeping summer, especially an English summer. This is the rugged society anyway, and I take it I can be a member. I know it turned rugged when I was away, but I'm back now. Back to mother at 50 looking 40 and to all at home. Back to my uncle's eldest boy who does not know why his voice broke. I soon met my aunts. You have not changed, said third aunt. Surprised but pleased. Just the same. Only your hair is longer, like Beatles. Agreed first aunt. Putih sekali, said second aunt. But lucky you have not changed. I was afraid you would come back speaking like a white man coming out through the nose, or else with a white wife. Your mother was scared only. They are happy I have not changed. My mom's happy I've come back. I'm happy knowing I have changed. But otherwise, things are very much the same. Or are they? (1969). 150 years of our past have turned into this sweep. This year is our divide. We are on a crest and we celebrate accordingly. In the year 1969, we realize we not only have a history like other nations, but what's more, it's on our side. In the year 1969, when we allowed a new road to pass beside instead of over the tomb of Tan Tock Seng. In the year 1969, when we discovered our history, it is disappearing as rapidly as is being made. Disappearing and developing Singapore and Honoured Raffles, impassive, engaged as always. I wonder, is he asking what is the stuff of our history? Walk along Tiong Bahru Road on the way to what's left of Chinatown. See on one side of the road abandoned hovels, collapsing wood at the end zinc for single Chinamen with hearts elsewhere. On the other side, geometrical steel and concrete with modern amenities, owner of multi-storied flats for Singaporeans with no national alternatives like before. This is part of our history. And there, on the left of Outram Road, restored on the hillside, the granite grave of the man who gave his name to a hospital. First monuments, then people. Priorities begin to emerge as we decide on our past. Allow people and their deeds to fall in, and then see who will stand out, deserving of more than the names they have left to roads, bridges, and building. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yeo. Okay, our next poet will be Miss Stella Kong. Okay, Miss Kong is a citizen of Singapore where she was educated. She was born in Edinburgh in 1944 and has lived in Malaya and Britain. Since 1986, she has been living and writing in Singapore. Her best-known work is the monodrama Emily of Admiral Hill, which appeared in 1982 and has since been performed almost 1,000 times in Singapore, Malaysia, and elsewhere. She has written poems, novels, and other plays, such as novels such as The Scholar and the Dragon, Aston, and Four Paths to Emptiness. Her plays include a collection of 9 classroom plays: The Bridge, Trial, Dragon's Teeth, Gate, Butterflies Don't Cry, A Braiding Pair, and Emily of Admiral Hill. Stella wrote the books and the book and lyrics for the musical adaptation of Emily, as well as other musicals like Lost in Transit, Peter and Pierre, Merlion, and Lim Boon King. With composer Desmond Moy, she has written librettos for several musicals. She also wrote the lyrics, which may be considered as poems. In 2006, she helped found the arts charity Musical Theatre Limited and was its chairperson for 14 years. She is descended from 2 old Singapore Peranakan family. Okay? She loves to visit her children, okay, and their adult families in Harrogate, Yorkshire, and Sydney, Australia. Okay, so can we now welcome Miss Kong to the podium to read 3 poems: Market Street, Rochor, and Kampong Java. Okay, Miss Kong, please.
Hey, thank you very much. I thought I had a hand mic. No, hand mic. Is it on? Not on? You want me to use this one? Okay. Am I having helpers? Are you two going to help me? Yes, please. Afterwards. Yes, come forward with me. These are your lines. Oh, can you get the other guy? Two of you can.
She's also reading excerpt from the
Trial.
election rally from her play as well, yeah. And that's why you see the gentleman be invited on the podium. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that last minute crew recruitment. I'm good. First of all, as Robert said, these of us who are in the Merdeka generation came of age in the time of independence, and we feel it's almost our national duty to write about independence and what it feels like, as you beautifully said, to see a new nation forming right before our eyes. So I've got a few poems here which are excerpts from a collection which I wrote in the 1970s. And at that time also I called it New Singapore because that was what I saw happening in front of me. And these poems are centered on the rivers of Singapore, which at that time were black, full of sulfides. They flowed smoothly to the sea with no barrier. The tides came in, the tides came out. This first one is Market Street. At Market Street, pituitary of the city, at 10 on a sunny Saturday morning, when the sea breeze flutters the skirts of typists in the gutter, a gulp and a gurgle, subterranean chuckling, water is flooding up
through drains, high tide rising along Market Street, inky water, not merely muddy or turbid, black as your Mercedes, as sin or loneliness, welling into a dusty road under a bright blue sky. Side streets are canals. Guy who parked in the lane finds the Citroen's four wheels up to their hubcaps in water. How the hell am I going to get to my car? Next one, Rochaw. Just down there. Here, two tides pause against each other, one inward pressing from our much-used seas, one from the close-built spaces of concrete and tar. No eddy turns, not the drowned fowl nor the bloated rat. On the black mirror, gold cassia leaflets hang like stars in space. At Rochaw, poised waters balancing. But though moon moves, rain flows only down. Tide turns at last and stream goes forward, out to an ocean, not now boundless, not unpolluted, yet a wider shore. Next one, Kampong Java, is also about the waters of the Kampong Java Canal in this time, in this sense, all near the same area. It's where, well, now the KK hospital is there, but at the time of writing, it had been a cemetery. There was a cemetery near the Kampong Java Canal. The site of the old cemetery might have got flooded, so the planners built a water lily pond. There might have been ghosts lurking in dark nooks, so instead of vainly decrying superstition, they put lots of lamps to light every corner. The soil is fertile, and flowers and trees all flourish. Truly, the wise man is he who knows how to turn evil into good. 20 years later, a gleaming hospital rises on the site. Oh, used to be a park there, people say, and nobody remembers it was once a cemetery. No, not finished. Okay. Wait, as promised, this is the extract from the play Trial, and this section is called the Election Rally, which would have been held by lamplight kerosene lamps in the Fullerton Square near what was the old GPO, and this is the speaker with microphones, old-fashioned primitive microphones, haranguing the crowd with the PAP narrative of Singapore's history. Stand by, huh? You guys will be a crowd if you can get these guys to join in, so better still.
So you point to us when you want us.
I will indicate, all right, the first one is go, 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 go. Second one is stop, 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 stop. Whatever, down, 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 down. And then it goes legato-ly out of a crisis, survival, stability, and prosperity. Okay, okay, righto. So, guess, I hope you know who I'm channeling right here with the narrative of Singapore's history. What we are grows out of what we have been. Our hope for the future rests on experience past. Today's decisions that will shape tomorrow must be made in the light which history casts. Our nation was born in times of trouble when political passions ran to and fro. British Empire went down in rubble. Colonialist masters had to go.
Go, 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 go.
Faster.
Go, 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 go.
We struggle to grasp our freedom and hold it. Labor unions made hostage the town. It seemed self-government soon would have folded. Enemies waited to tear us down.
Down, 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 and down, 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 down.
Out of those years, we forged stability. We learned how the balancing act is done. One group's interests against another's, so all can pull together as one.
Survival,
Stability and prosperity didn't come easy. They had to be learned. Cooperate, tolerate, act as citizens. Through precepts like these was
stability earned.
A new young nation had hardly started when its main economic props were withdrawn. A main employer overnight departed. A commercial hinterland was suddenly gone.
Gone, 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 gone.
Dark forebodings of doom were spoken. Unemployment would rise and imports would drop. We could not survive with our rice bowl broken. They said our economy soon would stop.
Stop, 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 stop.
Out of that crisis, we salvaged survival, found alternative ways for jobs to be made. Skill and persistence must be our resources. We built industries and pushed up trade. Survival,
For stability and prosperity seemed impossible, newly begun. Diligence, discipline, bold initiative. Only through these our survival was won.
Survival, stability, and prosperity. These we won, and you know the cost. Should our determination falter, all we have won could well be lost. All our gains could well be lost. Cost well be lost, well lost the cost. This is the time when you are asked to renew your commitment to confirm the mandate of those who have led you. Consider your own best interest. Consider your past and your future. I lack no confidence you will rightly judge what to do. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley.
Okay, thank you for the very exciting reading. Okay, we are all woken up. I'm sure we are now very, very vibrant, like waiting. Okay, so our next, then we are going to walk down a little bit down memory lane. Okay, so a Straits Times article published on September 19, 2023, described pioneer poet Mr. Chandran Nair as an active and prominent poet and publisher from the 1960s to 1980s. Mr. Chandran Nair was educated at Raffles Institution and the University of Singapore. He's the author of Once the Horseman and Other Poems, and After the Hard Hours, This Rain, Poems and Lyrics of the Last Lord Lee, as well as Reaching for Stones, Collected Poems 2010. He won the New Nation Short Prize in 1973 with Lita, was founder or president of the Society of Singapore Writers, and edited Singapore Writing in 1977, short stories from Asia and Africa. He is a signatory of the Asian Writers' Declaration, which states the objectives, rights, and responsibility of writers in the national and ASEAN context. After a career as a publisher in Singapore, he joined UNESCO in 1981 as a book development expert and worked in Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, and Europe. Today, his work will be read by his wife, Mrs. Ivy Goh Nair. Mrs. Ivy Goh Nair studied at the very famous La Sorbonne and lives in Montigny-le-Bretonneux. Though she is unable to be present today, she sends her regards along with the video of her reading. Okay, the video.
I need to full screen. Go to full screen.
Okay, while we are trying to resolve the technical issue, I hope you all don't mind if we go on to a live reader first. Is it okay? Okay. Liz, would the problem be solved? Okay, in that case, we will ask our next reader. Okay, so happens that our next poet is the late Suraman Markasan. He was one of Singapore's Malay language literary pioneers. As an educator, community leader, social political commentator, poet and short story and novel writer, Suraman wrote about the Malay experience in Singapore, addressing issues from filial piety to displacement in the award-winning works. His literary career started in the early 1950s. He received numerous awards, including the Southeast Asia Writers Award, Singapore's prestigious Culture Medallion, and the Southeast Asia Literary Council Award, conferred by Mastara Brunei. He was also the joint winner of the Singapore Literature Prize. Today, his work will be read by Amirul Hakim, this young gentleman here. He is actually an undergraduate from a university in Malaya, majoring in Malay studies. He was appointed by the Singapore Malay Language Council as Sahabat Sastera 2023. As someone who enjoys engaging critical discourses, Amirul has been involved in the debate scene for a few years. Now he has a growing interest in researching Malay history, language and literature. He is also writing articles and poems. He will be reading Hati Yang Kosong and Dalam Perjalanan Masa by Suraman Markasan. Amirul, please.
Right. I'll be reciting two poems by the late Suraman Markasan, who has passed on 27 February this year. The first one, Hati Yang Kosong, An Empty Heart, was the first written poem by the late Suraman Markasan in 1954. This piece encapsulates his pursuit of finding meaning in life with elements of love, honor and longing as tools in battling inevitable struggles. Hati yang kosong. Senyuman melukis 1000 makna. Matamu menusuk tenang dan dalam hatiku. Biar hati menyelam dalam sanubarimu. Hati kosong ini tidak mengenal diri supaya kau mengenal jiwa bercinta. Angin ku pesankan untuk membisik. Kalau halang mendatang tiba, kerana dorongan suasana keliling, kerana keganasan membabi buta. Tidak peduli hati bercinta. Kalau memang masa menetap demikian, biar engkau tinggal mulia dan kupuja. Biar angin sahaja menghabar kosong, tinggal senyuman bergelora hati kosong. The second one, dalam perjalanan masa. Ketika aku masih kecil, banyak yang aku tahu. Kerana duniaku sesempit kampungku. Penduduknya aku hafal dalam kepala. Aku kenal mereka, bukan kenal Cina. Daun-daun gugur bisa tertangkap mata. Di sekolah aku diajar ilmu sejarah. Raffles menemui Singapura. Raja mendapat kekayaan menjadi besar empayarnya. Sultan mendapat wang menjadi gemuk tubuhnya. Pendatang bertambah, hidupku tak berubah. Ketika dewasa, aku masih sopan dan tawakal. Pemimpin berhujah, aku menjadi keliru. Ulama menunjukkan aku siratul mustaqim, tapi dia terus berlawanan dengan sifatnya. Lalu aku menjadi bosan dengan manusia. Thank you.
Thank you, Amiru. Thank you so much. Okay. Now we'll still try to play the video again. Okay. We are not giving up yet. I really like high tech, okay, where there are so many different formats. Sometimes they are not compatible, okay? Okay, iPad not compatible Windows, okay? Okay, now, so maybe I think to save us time, can I invite Kamini Ramachandran to read Arthur Yap's 2 poems, okay? Old House at Ang Siang Hill and There's No Future in Nostalgia. Okay, one more try. Okay, Kamini. Okay, let me just do it while she's walking. Let me just do a quick introduction of Arthur. Okay, Arthur Yap published 4 major collections of poetry: Commonplace, Only Lines, Down the Line, and Man, Snake, Apple, and other poems. Okay, the latter 3 won the National Development Council Award for Poetry. He also contributed a section of poetry to 5 Ticks, a publication featuring Chong Yi Chong, Sing Bo Kim, Yo Bong Hock, and Professor Robert Yeo is here today. Other awards include the Southeast Asian Writers Award and the Mont Blanc National University of Singapore Centre for the Arts Literary Award for English. He is known as a painter and has held exhibitions locally and abroad. He was awarded the Culture Medallion for his contribution to literature in Singapore, and from 1992 to 1996, he served as a creative writing mentor for the Creative Arts Program under the Ministry of Education. Okay, he passed away in 2006 at the age of 63. His collected poems were published posthumously in 2013 by NUS Press, along with his only short story collection, Noon at 5 o'clock. Today, his book will be read by Kamini Ramachandran. Okay, she is actually a storyteller and creative producer based in Singapore. Through her work in Moon Shadow Stories, the Storytelling Centre Limited and Storyfest Singapore, she continues to advance the art of storytelling. She is a teaching artist working with Institute of Higher Learning and a mentor for artists and arts manager. She is known for her site-specific storytelling experiences, and as a Singapore International Foundation Fellow and an artist at the 136 Goethe Lab Residency. She is also a fellow at Mekong Culture Hub's curated conferences and Oxford Leaders Program. She is currently the artistic director for Goodman Open House, and she oversees programming for 70 arts tenants at Singapore's largest arts enclave. She is also a committee member for the Singapore Heritage Society and the Singapore Drama Educators Association. You can see that she is very, very, very... okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kamini, please. Yeah. And then she'll be reading Old House at Ang Siang Road and There's No Future in Nostalgia. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here to share 2 short poems by the late Arthur Yap. And thank you so much to Eric for inviting me to Poetry Fest Singapore. Old House at Ang Siang Hill. An unusual house this is. Dreams are here before you sleep. Tread softly into the 3-storied gloom. Sit gently on the straight-spawn furniture imported from China. Speak quietly to the contemporary occupants. They are not afraid of you. waiting for you to go before they dislocate your intentions. So what if this is your grandfather's house? This ghost doesn't live here anymore. Your family past is superannuated grime, which increases with time. Otherwise, nothing adds or subtracts the bricks and tiles until redevelopment, which will greatly change this house that was. Dozens like it along the street, the next and the next as well. Nothing much will be missed. Eyes, not tradition, tell you this. There is no future in nostalgia, and certainly no nostalgia in the future of the past. Now, the corner cigarette seller is gone, is perhaps dead. No, definitely dead. He would not otherwise have gone. He is replaced by a stamp machine, the old cook by a pressure cooker, the old trishaw rider stand by a fire hydrant, the washerwoman by a spin dryer. And it goes on in various variations and permutations. There is no future in nostalgia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamini, okay, for the very beautiful rendition. Okay, you can see that I am trying, okay, to finish this. So maybe can we now invite our pioneer poet for Chinese, okay, with Professor Wong Yun-Wah. He'll be presenting together with Associate Professor Tan Chi Lei, Pi Ying Si, Shadow Show, or Wayang Kulit. You can see it's very interesting because it's actually 3 different languages, okay? So when I first saw it, I was very excited. Okay, Professor Wong Yun-Wah is one of the few Singaporeans who excel as an international poet, critic, and scholar. Born in Malaysia in 1941, he studied English literature at the 国立政治大学 before pursuing his PhD degree in Chinese literature at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, USA. Following the completion of his doctorate study, he came to Singapore in 1973 to teach at Nanyang University and later became the head of the Department of Chinese Study at NUS. Prolific in both creative and academic writing, Professor Wong has published more than 20 collections of prose, poetry, and academic writing on Chinese and comparative literature in Chinese and English. For his commitment to promoting literature regionally, he was awarded the Southeast Asia Right Award and the Cultural Medallion and the ASEAN Cultural Award. Associate Professor Tan Chi Lei, okay, my colleague in NIE, okay, was born in Singapore and his ancestral home is in Hui'an, Fujian. He received a BA from a National Taiwan Normal University, MBA from Leicester University, MA from National University of Singapore, and PhD from Oriental Cambridge University. He has traveled the world. He's currently an associate professor and associate dean graduate study and professional learning at NIE. He was conferred the Golden Point Award, Fan Siu Literary Award, Singapore Youth Award, Young Artist Award, and Singapore Literature Prize. He has written and edited more than 20 titles and academic papers. Can we now invite Professor Wong and Associate Professor Tan?
Good evening. We are two Wayang Kulit, one old, one young. Well, the poems I'm going to read with Associate Professor Tan Chi Lei. First was written in Chinese. also go back, sing. So you know that in our days, writers usually, is this one not working? This one. Yeah. This show that in our days, writers are working very closely. We exchange and we pray together and we read together. So I'm glad to see, especially Edwin Tambu and also Robert Yo. But I miss Gopa Singh today. Ipa, also my good friends. We have very interesting story. 一把锋利的刀，把牛皮剪成我的形体；另一把尖锐的钻，雕刻成我凹凸的性格，再绘上一些色彩，我便是人人爱好、会演会唱的傀儡。
The birth of puppet. A sharp cutter seizes out my body from the leather. Another pointed drill carves out my strange personality. After adding some colors, I have become a popular puppet, clever at singing, acting.
银子的家庭背景，你们。
The family background of shadow.
我虽然是银子，我只在神秘的夜晚演戏，我却是光明的儿子。没有灯光的普照，我就活不了。我的乡土如一块洁白的纱布，在乌黑的社会，我会找不到自己。 我从不在路上留下一个足迹，我常常唱动听的歌，我却没有用自己的声音。我在家的时候，只是平面的侧影，在舞台上却表现立体。
Although I'm a shadow, performing the show in darkness, I'm a son of the light. Without its love, I would die. My country is a piece of white cloth. In a dirty, dark society, I'm unable to find myself. I never leave a footprint on the road. I always sing a touching song, though I do not have my own voice. At home, my body is only a piece of flat skin. On the stage, I'm solid and concrete.
傀儡的自白。
The prologue of puppet.
被以为我喜欢斗争，常常机智的为抢夺王位而战，或者多情的跟所罗门公主恋爱。一根无形的线系在我的四肢。 我非常迷信，没法子不接受这个命运的玩弄。一个躲藏在后台的老人，控制住我的喉咙，要哭要笑，全由他的声音来决定。
Do not think that I love war. Snatching the throne with wisdom, or changing the princess of Solomon with passion, or chasing the princess of Solomon with passion. An invisible thread is tied to my limbs. I'm superstitious, afraid to act against my fate. An old man hiding at the backstage controls my throat. My wishes to cry or laugh, manipulated by the voices.
银子的下场。
The end of the shadow.
戏演完之后，
After the show,
如果你走进舞台的后面，
if you walk backstage,
你会发现 我们这些英雄美人
You will discover that the hero and beauty
全是握在丑陋老人手中的傀儡，
are puppets manipulated by the hands of an ugly old man.
被玩弄过之后，
After the show,
我们的头一个个被摘下来，
our heads are to be taken off one by one.
身体整齐的被叠在一起，
Our bodies are piled up all together
放在河里，而且用绳子扎紧。
and put into a box which is to be sealed.
于是我们又像囚犯，耐心的等待。
Like a group of prisoners, we wait patiently
另一次的日出。
for another sunrise.
Who is the old man hiding backstage? According your life experience, you give me interpretation. I don't make comments. Thank you.
I have to thank Prof. Wong for lending me the batik shirt as well as the mask. Thank you. It's really a big shirt to fill.
Okay, just to keep you excited, okay? Now the Malay version will be read in the closing ceremony. So come for the closing ceremony, okay? Where you will have a grand performance in 3 languages. Okay, now our grand finale will be our well-known Professor Edwin Tambu. He actually needs no introduction, right? All of us know him. Okay, but the things that, in case we have people who are new, I'll just do a very brief one. Professor Tambo graduated in English from University of Malaya and received a PhD from University of Singapore. He became a professor in and later the head of his Department of English Language and Literature. He also served as Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences in NUS. He was the first chairman and director of the University Center of the Arts and continues to be associated with the university as an emeritus professor. A pioneer of local English literature, he compiled and edited some of the first anthologies of English poetry and fiction from Singapore and Malaysia. His own collection of poetry includes Rib of Earth, Ulysses, by the Malayan, A Third Map, A Gathering of Themes, and The Best of Edwin Tambo. He has won the National Book Development Council Singapore Awards for Poetry thrice. He received the First Cultural Medallion for Literature, the ASEAN Culture and Communication Award for Literature, and the Raja Rao Award. He was conferred the Public Service Star in 1981 with additional bar in 1991, and the Pinga Jasa Jamalan. Okay, he conceived the first national poetry for Singapore. That means he is actually the one who actually started PFS. And you're all very, very privileged to attend the 10th anniversary. It has been 10 years since Professor Tambo started the association. Okay, and he'll be reading Gibor from A Gathering of Themes. And may I just introduce our directors? Okay, so we have actually Eric. Okay, we also have Associate Professor Tan Chile and Lata. Okay, Azza is actually abroad. Okay, and when I first joined PSF, I was very impressed by the multilingual aspect of PFS. Okay, can we just invite Professor Tambu for the grand finale? Or maybe you can bring the mic to him, or would you prefer us to bring the mic to you? Oh, thank you. Okay.
Good evening. I must apologize for arriving late. It took us 1 hour plus to come from Bukit Panjang to this hall. It took that long. I will only read one poem. This poem changed in a relationship because I stuck to the topic quite clearly, but then I became a Christian, a practicing, serious Christian. And that narrowed my path in a way. And as you grow older, you have less places to visit, less things to do. I was asked once whether I could list out all the jobs I had at the university, right from 1966, 16th of June, I think, yes. And I said, no, I can't, because there's too much, so many changes. So I want to read one poem, Jonathan before Gilboa. That is his final battle, where he fought with his father and he was killed. Now, Jonathan, for me, is a remarkable person. He is, I think very seriously, the most Christ-like figure in the Bible. Apart from Christ, he prepares us for Christ. Christ is eternal. Christ is older because you are eternal. And yet, it is Jonathan who prepares the way, in a sense, for us to receive Christ as he is. So here's a poem. Jonathan before Gilboa. I live the shadow of two lives, fathers, David's, king, brother, my necessities. I face our final enemy, yet you who beget me are still my deadly pain. One face love, the other hate. How they bite each other. Only once you sought to punish me. Yet I suffered rendingly. You psyched up tribes to cut down Philistines and break their cities' trusty bones. The spirit of their gates yet snuggled Misha, us boys on your lap, kissed. Showed nightmares off, or squeezed them into dreaming, kept doing right with God, family, and world, blessed and praised. Then you disobeyed. Thereafter love leapt into frenzied, raving terror, gripped and shook, and bounced off walls and joists. Your tormented spirit writhed, called, soothed only by that one harp. Yet hurl your spear at him. Impose code and law without circumstantial mercy, second chance. Yet rashly ignored God's will in Samuel's precise, crucial, caring admonitions. Impatience burn, that offering not yours to light. Thus withered those sublime promises in your anointing, in that blaze of bright beginnings. You made history. It marred you. Yet David, poor David, whose God-led heart slew Goliath, hid from mounting praise, plowing poison into unwanted suspicion, royal jealousy. Our souls are knit. He would be hunted. I saved my sister's man, a man of God, a man of people, a man of coming days, the chosen one. I knew true love and walked more willingly behind nobility, rough holiness, feeling comely gentleness. He will lead, not me, who strikes hard, speaks soft. My veins of pain lived overlong in turbulence. Night falls. I have no shadows left, only that empty hush, dwelling with death before battle. I yearn for still waters and that perfect garden walked at eventide. Thank you. I'd
Thank
like
you,
to say,
Professor Tambu.
you
You can go on talking.
just
Yeah.
say a few words because I'm in my 90s. And when we were thinking of our own writing in Singapore, and I remember it was Wang Yunhua who came up with the suggestion that we have 4 languages together and that the languages talk to each other. And we organized and we worked together. And I still feel very sad because promotions were very difficult in the university at the time. And he had been promoted professor. And you only stayed for 1 year. Am I right? 3 years in Singapore. And then you moved. Yes, and then you moved. And I feel very sad when you left us because there was a chance to build up our people, our literature, our mistakes. I used to tell people, you never learn from doing right. You only learn from doing wrong. Or if you happen to do something that is wrong, then you learn. So when people come and say, oh, he's done it right, I just keep quiet. Because you don't learn from doing right. You learn from mistakes. You don't learn from doing right. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry I was 1 hour late, Terrible.
Okay, thank you, Professor Edwin Tambu. It's our privilege to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, come, where's the gang?
Okay, and what happens that, this will bring us to the end of Pioneer Poets poetry reading. Okay, so can I just say thank you for joining us today. If you have a moment, we're going to flash the QR code for you to fill in a short post-event survey. Your feedback and the support of PFS is deeply appreciated and will help us continue bring poetry to you. Okay, now what happens is this. While they are gathering for their photo, I would also like to open up the floor for very brief Q&A because it is so rare to have our pioneer poets gathered today. It's okay? So can you do the QR code? They will take the photo and then I will ask Chen Hui to facilitate the Q&A later. Okay? Yeah.
So we can take this chance to think about any questions that we might have for our pioneer poets. Maybe a show of hands if anyone has a question. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll make sure that your question's heard. Okay, while the photo is on, we have our first question, so everyone on stage can hear this.
Because they some kind of power.
Okay, we have got our first question here. So please introduce your name and maybe just where you are from, if you like.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah. Yeah, hello. I'm Kaisha. I am a student studying performance at LaSalle. So tonight, I've had this opportunity to listen to some wonderful poetry from wonderful poets. And I guess I'm wondering, right, the question is to the poets, right? These poems were written by you because you thought that it was worth the time and effort to put pen to paper and even publish it, because you believed that by letting the people hear these poems, that there will be some kind of impact. You believed that there was some kind of power behind poetry. I'm curious to know, I guess, how is that? How did you first know of the power behind poetry?
That's a very deep question. Thank you. Any of our pioneer poets would like to take that question? Maybe Professor? How do you first know about the power behind your poetry?
Hi, I'm Suping. I can attempt to answer maybe 1% of your question, because I think it'll take a whole book to answer that. I write not because I think, poetry is powerful and all that, but I write to discover what I'm thinking, what matters to me, and if it says something useful to anybody else, I'm happy. But primarily, I do not write thinking, I'm going to, be famous and somebody's going to be very impressed by this. Never, 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 not at all. If and I've always told the young writers I've mentored, if you want to be a poet, do not write. Do not write if you want to be a poet. If you need to be one in order to use poetry to find out about yourself and the world and life, then perhaps you could write. But so many of us have so many other things that are attractive to us. And I tell my students, go and do that. You don't have to write. Unless you feel you have to write, don't write. I hope that answers a bit of your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again to all our pioneer poets and the wonderful audience tonight. I'm going to maybe hand the mic over to Chu Hong. Yeah, so as all of you know, today is only our first day out of the Poetry Festival. So on this QR code, if you can, please help us by using your camera to give us some feedback on the QR code. This will definitely help us with our feedback and funding for National Arts Council. Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what happens that can I thank Lan Hui Hui? Okay, I think I changed her surname just now. Okay, for very good facilitating. I mean, it's just that we don't have the time. Okay, such a wonderful opportunity. Can we give another round of applause to our pioneer poets? Okay, and then today I get to know people like Iqbal, okay, Pakistani poet. Okay, so it's actually an eye-opener for me. Now I'm afraid I have to do this thing called the chaser. I need to ask you to vacate the place ASAP because they need to set this place up for another event tomorrow. And I think they also need to go home. Okay? Okay. So you can see I've been walking around doing a lot of other things. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Okay. Hope to see you in the next few days. Okay. At the Arts House. It's going to be Arts House. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. See you.